Are you aware of how statistically
Yes, I am.
improbable it is?
I am.
You know,
Also, think about how statistically insane the universe is. It's the same as saying I'm going to get struck by lightning twice and win the lotto.
it's actually trillions of times less likely than that.
No, it's not.
Absolutely.
I don't agree.
We're the Existence Project, and we try to have respectful, loving conversations. May I have your name, please?
No.
Sure. What we're doing, the point is to...
Cool, but like that's not how rationality works. Prove that he exists.
Okay.
Because like I say there's a unicorn that rules the universe. Okay, prove me wrong.
Okay. So, when we say we want proof of something, as we go up all of the most powerful forces in the universe, as they exercise control of the universe, gravity, electromagnetism, microwave background radiation, they become increasingly elusive to the naked eye. So when we...
But that's not true. You can still see phenomena. And like we're observing gravity right now. Am I floating away?
I totally agree with you. They're known by their effects on what we can see, right? Likewise, we say that everything that we see around us, it has a source and a cause. And naturally, religion postulates that that cause is a conscious creative force. It is not some bearded man in the sky. As for your point about the unicorn, I really appreciate it and I totally agree with it. But there are not billions of people claiming to actually experience a daily connection with a unicorn. Right? So that is an extremely disingenuous comparison. And often atheists, if I may please respond to your point with due respect and love, of course, whenever they say, prove to me that unicorn does not exist, there are not people through the annals of history who are dedicating their lives to this cause of a unicorn at all. There is nobody postulating that the cause of all causes, which is the fundamental precipice that is shared by theology, shared by philosophy, by science, and by religion, that the cause of all causes is a magical unicorn. No. The question is whether that cause that began everything is in fact conscious and creative or not. There is stupendous evidence by way of induction, by way of inference, throughout the cosmos of amazing design, and not just design, there's specific function, right? How can you do away with things that are demonstrating very particular function from the subatomic particle up until ourselves and say that there is no designer, where there are set laws, there is no lawgiver, etc. So that's why we say that there is incredible evidence by way of the effects. Like you said, most powerful forces are known by the effects they have on what we can see.
There's a few points where you're not
Please.
rationally consistent. Sure. I don't want you to stick that in my face. First off, you brought up the point about observation. Observation or the sense of experiencing a God isn't a rational or reasonable evidence, because if we go back to early human history, everybody was like, oh, the sun, everything goes around us, the whole geocentric theory. Like, that was a universally observed concept at one point, right? But with actual rational evidence, we can all agree that that's not the case now, right? Can you that's reasonable. So
that was not experienced by anyone. That was just
observed.
Sorry?
What the like all of hunter-gatherer humanity for millennia said the earth goes around, everything goes around us, right? But then via empirical evidence, we know that that's not true. Yeah?
Yes.
So you saying, in just the same way, you saying, 2 billion people in the world say, I feel God through prayer and through existence, and that God therefore is real, just by virtue of that.
I didn't say that.
You did say that. You implied that.
I responded to your fallacious equivocation of a postulation of a unicorn.
Sure, my fallacious...
I'm saying they're not the same thing. That's all I said. I did not appeal to the masses.
Valid. That's my point. But it's not more valid.
I agree with you. I agree that just because a larger number of people believe in something is not evidence that it exists. Cool. I'm trying to say that I agree with you.
Cool. So then
my point, that point was to show that the relevance of the existence of God is far more important and far different, far flung from the postulation of some unicorn out there, because it impacts the lives of many people. If God exists, he's the greatest truth out there. If he does not exist, it may be the greatest lie ever told. That's why we're out here having these discussions, because it is an important subject. I want to say, I was cutting you off to agree with you, not to disagree with you.
That's fair. Okay. Yeah. On the side of your attempted postulate about different proofs or different things for God.
Sure.
One, like I want to go home, so I don't really want to get into each of the specific ones.
Okay.
But you're let's go to argument for the creator kind of thing.
Sure.
Feeling like you observe existence and like observing an intentionality to it.
Okay. That's a really good word, intentionality. Yeah.
Okay. Just as much as you could attribute anything to that intentionality, I think you can very reasonably attribute it to a null nature of like entropy and a side of things falling into equilibrium. The idea that you observe something and the sense that you observe a pattern is in itself just a property of our brains demanding to search for patterns because pattern finding is evolutionary advantageous. It doesn't mean there's actually a pattern.
Okay. So the first point about entropy, replacing perhaps what we call God. Religious people say God started the universe.
But there's no intentionality there. That's the distinction.
Okay. So
there's no grand watchmaker.
Sure. So entropy is the opposite of the inception of the universe. Entropy is the increase of chaos, the increase of disorderliness, the dissipation of energy, so that eventually no interesting chemistry can result. So
That's
you cannot
replace.
If I may complete my thought, please. Feel free to disagree. Entropy refers to the end of the universe, the thing that will. I'm talking about the force where the universe, apparently from an atheistic framework, began without having the actual ability to think for itself and decided without having the ability to decide to suddenly go from a hyper-dense mass to bustling with astronomical wonders. Mm-hmm. Then when we say in terms of evidence for a creative designer, when the processes of the observed universe are fundamentally creative, how can it be...
What do you mean fundamentally creative?
For example, the principles that underpin the fundamental relationship of particles.
Why is that fundamentally creative?
Because,
why is that creative, period?
Sure. It's creative because it has taken us from subatomic particles, abiotic factors of the universe, and has worked together to create not just greater complexity and design, but greater functionality in a particular direction, in a specific direction, whereas the universe could have, should have, would have taken any direction at all. Then when we look, and I'll close with this point, and feel free to respond, then when we look at the probabilism of it's not just dumb luck. At one point you can say, yes, the Big Bang was highly improbable. We know that it is 10 to the raised to the power, 1 against 10 raised to the power of 36, according to one mathematical postulation, for the universe to exist at all. But then after that, for the fundamental forces, 26 fundamental constants, to work together in a way where they should have gone in any other direction. And then at what point, what mathematical number, there is possibly not even a mathematical number that we can conceive of that gives expression to the totality of that coincident. So we're proposing that where there is incontrovertibly design, you cannot deny the design.
I don't think there's design.
Okay, so what would you call everything that we see around us, the orderliness? You yourself quoted...
I pointed out entropy and equilibrium. Like, this is just a larger energy system trying to reach, like, entropic zero. Like, that's all it is. Like, it's just how it's happened to fall because of probability. Like, it's sheer, like, odds are something comes about if you have a big enough pool of nothing.
But the problem is the odds are all against this.
It doesn't matter. It's still probability. Like, someone gets to win the lotto when we play the lotto. It doesn't matter. Like, probability is still saying that someone will. It's just not that everyone will. Yes. So the vast majority of the universe is dead. It's empty. That's the whole point. The probability just happened to get lucky. And by virtue of evolution, by virtue of the fact that we are all forced to observe and exist because entropy demands that we exist for someone, that now we say, oh, I exist because something happened. No, you just rolled the lucky die, and now you have to say, oh, that lucky die tells me that it was chosen, because the lucky die has to tell you it was chosen, or there's no other, like, point.
Okay. Are you aware of just how statistically improbable it is?
I am. But also think about how statistically insane the universe is. It's the same as saying I'm going to get struck by lightning twice and win the lotto. Like,
it's actually trillions of times less likely than that.
No, it's not.
Absolutely.
I don't agree.
It's a matter of number. Would you like me to pull up the numbers? I'd like to share with you the numbers by the leading atheist scientists. You want to sit down here? Sure.
I'm hungry.
Sure. I'll just share this with you, and then I'll get your concluding thoughts. And I hope you feel that, I hope I haven't said anything offensive or anything.
No, you're fine.
So I quote Stephen Hawking,
Okay.
theoretical physicist, who himself was an atheist, of course, and I think he's a tremendously great scientist.
I don't know if I agree, but okay.
Hawking says the laws of science contain many fundamental numbers, like the size of the electric charge of the electron and the ratio of the masses of the proton and the electron. The remarkable fact is that the values of these numbers seem to have been very finely adjusted to make possible the development of life. Sir Fred Hoyle, astrophysicist, a common sense interpretation of the fact suggests that a super-intellect has monkeyed with physics certainly, as well as with chemistry, as well as with biology, and that there are no blind forces worth speaking about in nature. The numbers one calculates seem to me so overwhelming as to put this conclusion almost beyond question. Albert Einstein, I'll close with him. The scientist is possessed by the sense of universal causation. His religious feeling takes the form of a rapturous amazement at the harmony of natural law, which reveals an intelligence of such superiority that compared to it all the systematic thinking and acting of human beings is an utterly insignificant reflection. I quoted one person who people debate was a believer, Albert Einstein, and then Sir Fred Hoyle, an astrophysicist, and Stephen Hawking, who of course was a pronounced atheist.
Can I ask where the number was? Because you said
Sure.
I have a number.
Yes.
I have numerical
Yes,
proof.
absolutely. Yes. So this is the takeaway of leading. Given the data available, Roger Penrose in 1979, one of the world's most famous mathematicians of our era, calculated the odds of our observed universe occurring by accident to be less than one, just the occurrence of the universe, not all the coincidences that took place after, 10 raised to the power of 10 raised to the power of 30. The calculation was based on thermodynamics and entropy considerations. Since 1979, additional anthropic coincidences have been discovered, making random occurrence even more unlikely. Then, in mathematics, probabilities of less than 1 part in 10 raised to the power of 50 are typically written off as 0. So from a mathematical point of view even, it is 0, the percentage or probability of just the universe coming into existence by chance. And this is one of maybe 12 numbers. I can continue. So what I'm saying is, why would we go for the lowest conceivable number of probability as against all the odds when the design and the laws of the universe take far less blind faith to understand that there is perhaps a creative force for the creativity and a designer for the design and laws behind the laws. A few of the anthropic coincidences. The explosive force of the Big Bang had to be fine-tuned to match the strength of gravity to 1 part in 1 followed by 40 zeros. This is 1 part in 10 raised to the power of 60. Then, the density of matter in the Big Bang. In the Big Bang, the density of matter in the universe after the Planck time had to be so perfectly fine-tuned that its probability was 1 followed by about 26 zeros. The inflation of the Big Bang, the lambda of the inflationary Big Bang, the strong force and its value. When you compound these numbers, it becomes such an infinity that the improbability, nobody would ever wager on the...
But what do you mean? Okay,
Yeah.
you propose this concept that like these numbers are lucky, right?
They're impossible.
They're impossible.
Yes.
Then what
to have happened on their own.
What do you mean by that?
What I mean is that...
Like, if you're saying that, then you're saying that there's two lines of thought: the like having a god and them being intentional, and not having a god and these being spontaneous. But there's a third spot in there for both. What would it have looked like in the spontaneous side if it didn't happen?
Okay. So a lot of our atheist brothers and sisters in humankind raised this point, if it didn't happen. And it's funny that the atheist people that I speak to, they're the ones who, when we're discussing, want to stay within the realm of the observable empirical universe.
That's where I'm going to go.
Okay.
But
And so if you're going to postulate a maybe for which there is no evidence, then why can a believer not postulate a maybe for a creative God?
And we get back to my point at the beginning. Give me evidence. Like the whole point that you brought up was like, why can't we have a maybe? A maybe is more reasonable than saying, oh, there is this thing. That's not rational.
Okay, I see. So I'll explain why I respectfully disagree. The numbers that I've just demonstrated, showing the improbability, nay, the mathematical impossibility of things to have just happened on their own.
I don't agree with your usage of impossibility there, but okay. It happened.
Impossibility meaning that when a certain probability is so low, mathematically it is called impossible, as I demonstrated. If there is a number that only has a chance of 1 out of 10 raised to the power of 30, or between that and 10 raised to the power of 50, mathematically it's written off as 0. That's what I mean, mathematically speaking. Now, and why is this improbable? It's improbable because if tomorrow a printing press exploded, and out of that printing press, all of the literature of the world perfectly printed out, the likelihood of that would be absolutely impossible. Nobody would accept that. What we would accept is that there were conscious minds who wrote those things and printed them. That is why I'm saying the atheist position is so stupendously improbable and irrational, whereas when there is design, there are entire languages coded into your DNA, my brother. That language necessitates a linguistic designer behind it. And when you postulate... DNA is a language.
It's a language because we've classified it as a language, but like it's just a system of chemicals. Like what do you mean by it's a language?
You can call it a system of chemicals. Physicists will classify it as a system of energy. Yeah. So it doesn't matter.
What do you mean by a language then?
When you say language, it means it is conveying huge enormities of information, complex information with specific function, specific instructions. It is self-replicating, self-editing. There are functions interpreting that language. So that's what I mean. That when
whole arising is very easily explainable by entropy and by equilibrium.
Okay. Please explain it.
What do you mean? It's just the science of it. Like we can generate.
You said it's very easily explainable. I'll wait.
Just flip it. Like that's my only point. Like just it's not fair. The onus of proof is on the other person. That's not what I meant.
Just joking.
Quoting Hawking isn't a valuable piece of evidence.
No, that's not in any definition at all. I don't know where you're getting this.
I think
you're inserting a word that's not part of any definition of the word.
I think it's implicit in the usage of it.